So where do you live?
I live in Mount Sinai, New York. We're in Suffolk County.
What were you with in the city?
I taught from 1966 up in East Harlem at PS 155. It was an elementary school. And then when Gregory was born in 1975, I was out for quite some time, but I did return in 1992 and I taught gifted education at PS 160 in South Jamaica, Queens.
So it was both like elementary and,
They were elementary, yes.
oh, both all throughout your entire career?
Yes, and I've always been a UFT member.
Great.
And for me, it was a blessing to be able to teach gifted education and feel that I could do something for someone else's child when I had a son who was so multiply disabled that just keeping him alive was all I could do. And if you could indulge me for 1 minute, I'd like to share with you the young man we're talking about. This is a before and after. This is Gregory at his worst at Stony Brook Hospital. And this was a few months later when he got out.
So what is your concern with the Medicare Advantage?
My concern is that the only way I can keep Gregory alive is by using Stony Brook Hospital and the long established relationships with the physicians that we have had at Stony Brook. Greg was born in 1975 before we ever knew about amnio or ultrasound. And he was born with no platelets in the blood. We knew something was wrong because he had petechiae under the skin. It's like bleeding under the skin. And it was confirmed 12 hours after his birth that he did, in fact, have a brain bleed. There were no CAT scans in those days. And finally, 3 months later, there were 3 CAT scanners on the Eastern Seaboard, and we had connections. And he went to Montefiore as an outpatient, and they confirmed that he had a porencephaly, which is a cyst in the brain, and it really occupies half of his brain. So this has left him nonverbal, non-ambulatory. He has a severe seizure disorder. It's called Lennox-Gastaut. It's a seizure disorder that was really secondary to the porencephaly that was confirmed when he was 3 months old. And basically, our major problems from 1985 all the way up until 2018 were the seizure problem. It's a mixed bag of seizures. We were in and out of, at that time, St. Catherine's Hospital, which is in Smithtown, New York. Greg was now living at United Cerebral Palsy in Comac, New York. So St. Catherine's was the closest hospital. Greg was placed at United Cerebral Palsy. It's an intermediate care facility, which means we have round-the-clock nursing. We have 3 shifts. 2 nurses are supposed to be there for each shift. Intermediate care facility. It's run by United Cerebral Palsy of Long Island.
So how does this relate to the problem of what the city wants to do with Medicare Advantage?
Well, for Gregory, being sent to St. Catherine's, which is really not viable for him because they do not have the resources or the staff to really take care of his complex medical needs. So what would happen is we would be transferred from St. Catherine's in the middle of the night. I would follow an ambulance over to Stony Brook because Stony Brook was the teaching hospital. It's an academic medical center. They really do care for vulnerable populations. They have the infrastructure. They have the coordination between the experts in the various disciplines, which by and large, St. Catherine's does not have. And Greg's issues are too complicated to be safely managed in a less comprehensive medical system. Stony Brook is not accepting the Medicare Advantage plan that's been, the city is trying to dump on us. This, by and large, is a death sentence for Gregory. And not just Gregory, for the 250,000 retirees who are still in limbo, who deserve to have access to timely, safe, efficient, equitable, and patient-centered care. This will become a thing of the past if we don't prevail. You know, my feeling is, Greg, that shifting from a government program to a privatized program, we know what happens. The Medicare Advantage plans, it's delay, 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 deny, deny, deny. People are dying while they're waiting to be serviced. And there's no guarantee. There's really no guarantee that the Medicare Advantage plans that are being negotiated and offered today are even going to resemble future plans. It's a travesty.
But the issue is that here what we're saying here is the issue for you is that you have seen in concrete terms what Medicare Advantage can be. And you're looking at that as a sign of what can affect the 2,500.
I know, and I personally know individuals who have been adversely affected because they had a Medicare Advantage plan. I have a dear friend in Illinois who was in a severe car accident, was finally released from the hospital. She had a Medicare Advantage plan. I believe it was Aetna. I'm not positive. She entered on a Sunday afternoon. They told her that she had to be out by the following Friday. She was not even allowed to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. And they were ready to dump her. And she's one of thousands. I can't afford to lose this.
Normally the kids get dropped off the insurance, but in the case of Gregory, because he's disabled, you were able to keep him on your insurance as an adult?
I was not only able to keep him on, Greg, but the social worker, this goes back at least 2 decades. I have the paper, I could give you the date, but she took it upon herself to write to GHI Emblem and secure a guarantee in writing that Gregory would have a lifetime override to make sure that all of the pharmaceuticals could come from We didn't have to use a mail away. We could get his medications through the local pharmacy that services everybody at United Cerebral Palsy. That would become null and void. That would become null and void if I lose what we now have. He's on my senior care plan with the city.
If this Medicare Advantage scheme goes through, concretely, just, I mean, you started to say Gregory is going to lose exactly what? I mean, he's not going to be able to stay.
He's going to lose access to Stony Brook Hospital, lose access to Stony Brook physicians who will not accept the Medicare Advantage plan. I'm talking neurology. I'm talking gastroenterology. I did not include this, but I will now. In 2018, October of 2018, Greg was no longer able to swallow the 4 anticonvulsants that were keeping the seizures under better control. He has something called dysphagia, which is basically nothing more than a swallowing disorder. And there I am at Stony Brook Hospital, crushing one of his little pills into a quarter of a teaspoon of pudding. And I felt like I was murdering him. He was choking to death. And after being a strong advocate for 18 years against giving him a feeding tube, this was the only way I could keep him alive. And we did, in fact, sign permission, and he did, in fact, get a feeding tube. But I could not do this without the various disciplines at Stony Brook that were involved in this. And I'm just going to give you a quick example. After we were able to administer everything through the G-tube, we were finding that one of the medications, Dilantin, instead of the Dilantin levels coming up, they were plummeting, and he was still having seizures. And we could not understand how this could possibly happen. I had a nurse watching hundreds of seizures with me through the night. And we took this to a nurse manager across the hall who called down to pharmacy. And I was told by him that Dilantin does not get absorbed if you are being fed 2 hours prior or 2 hours following medication. And they taught us everything we needed to know about tube feeds. I took a crash course in how tube feeds should be done. Everyone, Greg is impossible to get blood from. I watched nurses climb into bed with him and in contortions trying to get a drop of blood so we would know where his blood levels are. The bottom line is when the feeding tube was finally in, I wrote the best letter I ever wrote in my life. And it went not only to Stony Brook administrators, it also went to the Office of Quality and Patient Safety at the Joint Commission. Because here was a situation where each and every practitioner really demonstrated strict adherence to national patient safety goals. Everyone excelled in communication skills with different caregivers from different disciplines. And with Gregory on so many different medications, they really took extra care to make sure that the medication reconciliations had the highest priority. they address, he's in there for 10 weeks. They're addressing the fact that he could pick up other hospital-acquired infections. They took care to make sure that this didn't happen. There was so much cooperation between the various disciplines. This is a hospital that has what he needs. I cannot afford to lose Stony Brook Hospital. And they will not entertain the idea of the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. I have reached, the hospital will not. I'm not being dramatic. My son will die if he does not have access to Stony Brook Hospital.
How old is Gregory? Did you say?
Gregory's now 48 years old. We have been at death's door more times than I care to share. I was with him in the year 2000. We were there at Stony Brook for 5 weeks in the ICU. They got him back. He had aspiration pneumonia. In the year 2015, we were there 10 weeks. I went home to take a shower and I got a call. He had coded. I went running back, not knowing whether he was alive or not. They got him back. He was there for all these weeks. I want our son to always have the quality of care he received from everyone at Stony Brook University Hospital. Greg goes to a doctor. Mom and Dad go to the doctor. Greg goes to a hospital. My husband can't do it anymore physically. He just turned 80 and he's having his own health issues. Gregory goes to the hospital. I'm there 24/7. I don't leave. He can't talk. He can't tell anyone if he's hurting, what he needs. We know that when he goes to the hospital, regardless of any hospital, he's going to lose seizure control. It's a given. But at Stony Brook, they know how to get the seizures under control. I'm going to read to you what I shared with Mary Ann. Oh, boy. Gregory has been a long-standing patient here at Stony Brook University Medical Center. He has a very complicated medical history. He talks about his seizure disorder. He talks about the complications because of the G-tube. Caring, and this is the sentence, it says it all. Caring for patients with such complex medical issues is something we specialize in an academic medical center that cares for vulnerable populations. We pride ourselves on this. It is essential to have, I'm quoting him, it is essential to have the infrastructure and coordination between experts in different fields and to have the advanced technology available for care. His medical issues are too complex to be safely managed in a less comprehensive medical system. It is with this consideration that I write with concern about the potential significant change in the insurance coverage which he has. He wrote the letter in our support.
Who wrote that?
This was Dr. Benjamin Blonde.
So he suffers from seizures. He's under tube feeding.
Mm-hmm. Non-verbal, non-ambulatory. Lennox-Gastaut seizures. Now he has a feeding G-tube for nutrition and medications. Everything he does not eat or take medicine by mouth.
How often does he have seizures, Judy?
Well, the good news is we used to have before the feeding tube, he could turn one seizure into 100 in a couple of minutes. The good news is with the feeding tube, the medications he's on 4 anticonvulsants, and the medications are going directly in. I don't have to worry about, did he swallow it? Did he spit some of it out? We know he's getting his meds. And the seizures have slowed down somewhat. So I would say we're seeing a couple of a week, not a couple of 100, all the time. Would this be okay?
Sure. That's beautiful.
Okay. And here's one of Greg that was taken. It's a terrible thing to say. I take thousands of pictures because I always feel like every time I take a photo, it could be the last time. I do this all the time. This is Gregory outside.
The Illinois friend, what is the issue with her on Medicare Advantage?
She was in a very severe car accident. She was in the hospital for quite some time, and then she was trying to find a rehab, and finally was admitted. I don't really know the name of it right now, but she was admitted to a rehab program that was supposed to be excellent. She came in on a Sunday at 3 p.m. and they were discharging her by the following Friday. She wasn't even there for a week. And they said the insurance at Aetna wouldn't cover it. I've heard horror stories about this. I worry about people who are in nursing homes who don't even know what's going on with this problem. It's really scary. It's really scary. People have the right to choose the quality health care to meet their individual medical needs. This should not be one size fits all. I'm sure you wouldn't want to choose that way. And certainly it's a death sentence for seniors everywhere.
Arguably the greatest public program created in our lifetime. Okay, under Johnson, right? And people just don't realize this.
Greg, we're on the same page. You and I we're on the same page. I am.
No, an obvious thing here too is like here we focused on your son. What about yourself as you face this?
Well,
I mean, it's rather obvious, but
really has impacted on the entire family. My husband and I have really had to give up a lot to keep Greg alive. And would I do it again? Yes, I would do it again. But we don't take vacations and we don't go away. And I drive around with extra clothes for myself and my medication in case I don't make it home because I get a call that Greg is on his way to Stony Brook, and
right.
I may not make it home. In 2015 when he spent 10 weeks there, and at that time my husband was in bed of physical condition, so that he would come and relieve me for a couple of hours so I could get away, go home, shower, go shopping. But he can't do that anymore. So much of this now all of it is me. And it's not his fault. He just can't do it. He has his own issues. He's got neuropathy. He's not able to ambulate without a walker. He's at very high risk to fall. When I'm at the hospital, I'm worried. I'm worried about what's going on at home. If I'm going to get a call from someone that he's on the floor. I recently had to call 911 to get him up. I couldn't. He fell in the garage coming into the house. It's impacted on all of us.
If the city implements Medicare Advantage for you concretely, like what is your fear?
Financially, we would really be in the hole. I mean, there's no way. If I had to opt out, I would pay to keep traditional Medicare. It would be a major, we're on fixed incomes. It would be a major, major burden.
Marianne, is the city going to allow that option, people to opt out? Or that's where you have to pay more money and then.
So under the law, they have to provide you an ability to opt out, but their opt-out procedure was waived. So there's a difference. It's not like, well, I don't want that. I'm going to go into the other plan. There was no other plan in this last case of what they did. They eliminated all options to a retiree, and they said, you either take this Medicare Advantage plan or you have to waive your city benefits. What did that look like? So, which was your union again, Judy?
UFT.
Okay. So in that situation, if Judy were to waive her health benefits to stay on traditional Medicare, Judy would still be paying for Medicare B premium from her Social Security check, her husband's Social Security check, and her son's Social Security check. But because she waived her city benefits and was not going to be taking a city plan because there was nothing else offered other than Medicare Advantage, she would no longer have the Medicare B reimbursement any longer. So that's $600 a month, in essence, that she would not be getting back. Okay, that's one. Two, because she was also not in the city healthcare plan, she'd have to purchase the supplemental plan on the marketplace in order to keep her husband and her son in a supplemental plan because the city was no longer offering senior care. That means that as long as they're in the state of New York, one of 4 states that has a guarantee issue right, which means she would be guaranteed to be issued a plan regardless of age or pre-existing condition or outside of a normal open enrollment period, she'd be paying a minimum of $233 a month per person. So on top of not getting the $600 a month back approximately for the Medicare premium, I think it's like $165. When this started, it's probably $174 today. She'd also be paying, let's just round it up, $250 for the supplemental plan. So if you want to round everything up, just say $400 per month per person, in order to have Medicare traditional with a supplement. But there's more. Because she was also not in the senior care plan offered through the city of New York, she wasn't taking the Medicare Advantage plan offered through the city of New York, and she waived her benefits. She'd also have to purchase a drug plan for each person on the marketplace. And the marketplace drug plans, they are typically inexpensive, but it adds another $8 to $80 per month per person, depending upon the drugs you need. And each one of them in a Medicare traditional plan could have a different drug plan because one drug plan might cover her, but might not cover the drugs her husband needs or her son needs. So look at that. And then, of course, if she was one of a couple of unions that had rules within their welfare fund agreements that if you were not on a city healthcare plan, you were not entitled to welfare fund benefits, you didn't have vision, prescription, and dental available to you, you lost that too. And there were like 3 unions, I believe, if I remember correctly, that lost that as well if they were to waive their benefits. I know one union had fixed it. I do not know if the other one did. I know PSC supposedly fixed that rule in their welfare fund agreements, and the other one was Local 1180 CWA. I do not know if they ever fixed that.
I mean, the bottom line is Judy would be charged probably easily $1,000 a month at least, right?
Over.
Yeah, this is just so awful. And I'm just,
it's happening all over municipalities, corporations, they're all looking to do it. And thank God we have Marianne who's been spearheading this. And truthfully, I don't know what we would have done without this organization.
yeah. No,
and we are, and believe me, Greg, I'm very indebted to you for covering it. I really am.
Oh, we appreciate so much that you're talking to us and coming forward. It's getting attacked, kind of like our. In other words, the there's the lawsuit, and then there's the um, arena of public opinion, and so I mean, people's consciousness needs to be raised about this. So this is what's going on. And so, Marianne, you might have some questions.
So when you were throughout this whole process, though, one of the things that we argue is that we were told when we were retiring or employed and going into retirement that you would have traditional Medicare when you retired and a city supplement, and that would be your health care. And we all knew that we paid a small Medicare tax in every paycheck from the very first paycheck we earned. Is that accurate of a reflection of your recollection?
My recollection is the 2004 retiree handbook, pages 51 to 53, spelled it out. It was right there. I had no trouble putting my hands on it. And yes, that is exactly what we were promised. I had no way in 1966 of even imagining that in 1975 I was going to give birth to Gregory, who is going to require total care 24/7. I had no way of knowing. I never dreamed anything like this would ever be happening to us. And here we are.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. And actually, Greg will tell you that he and another group of retired unionists yesterday had made a statement about some of their frustrations that most of us, if not all of us, are feeling about what's happening to us. And we identify as unionists, we identify with our unions. What is this? How does this make you feel, knowing where this is stemming from?
Well, I can tell you now, the city, the municipal labor corporation, and our respective unions, they've all broken faith with all of us who served the city so well and for so long. It's unconscionable.
And if the mayor is successful at forcing us into a Medicare Advantage plan,
I wouldn't go teach in New York City. I wouldn't serve New York City in any way. I think it speaks volumes about people reconsidering career choices. They're not going to come to New York City to work.
What do you think that means in terms of a young person today looking to teach and then hearing a story of a retiree who spent how many years in city service with these promises to now be faced with this decision? What do you think that person would be facing?
My concern, Marianne, was the individuals who are still, let's say, in their careers, who see what's happening to us and are still lured by the promise of a salary increase. They see the short term, they don't see the long term. And this is still a concern. I think we've been successful in educating and getting more people on board with us. But it is still a major concern for me.
Yeah, because our generation's prepared for our future, where this generation is only preparing for right now. And I think that scares me because my mother, you always used to say to me, she'd give me my allowance, and my sisters would take their money and go to 7-Eleven and buy Bazooka, Bazooka bubble gum, the little 5 cents gums that was like lost its flavor
Yep.
after 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was like chewing a pencil eraser. And then I always funneled my money away. And my mom would always say, you're putting your money away, you're saving for tomorrow, or you're saving for a rainy day, or you're saving for college, or you're saving for something else that you want. Why aren't you going to 7-Eleven like your sisters? And I said, because I have to plan for my future. Like, this will help me. You get older. I was getting married. My mother said, she gave me a small account, and she said to me, she called it your oh shit fund. This is for
Mhm.
your future. If something were to happen, this will give you a leg up. So we were groomed as young people to plan for tomorrow. Mom would take us every week to the little savings bank on the corner where I lived for us to put our money in a savings account.
I
We did
remember
the
this.
we did the Christmas accounts. Do you remember
Right.
those? The Christmas
Yes.
every week you'd go
Yes.
in 52 weeks, you'd put a little bit of money in. And we used to joke because we'd walk into the bank, and I still remember the bank this day. It looked like it was like old Victorian furniture on the inside with the brass chandelier hanging. Mr. O'Brien was the banker. You would go in, he would give you a dum-dum lollipop, and when you made a deposit, and he used to say, your money is in the safe and it's growing. And we were like, really? We want to go watch. So we wanted to go see our money. And he's like, well, it's not really in there. But I was like, what do you mean it's not in there? Like, where's our money growing? But we plan for our future was the bottom line. And because of that, I have a small pension, but because I saved my pennies, because I did those Christmas funds or those CDs every week when I had a job, mom made me take my paycheck. And if I made, $400 for that week or 300, she had me take like a little bit and buy a bond, a $50 bond, a $25 bond, which to me was painful because like you had to wait like 10 or 20 years for those bonds to mature.
Right.
But when they finally did, I was able to put that money away, and then I had a retirement account. And these were all things that most people today don't have. And for as painful as that was, as you say, well, I'm not making a lot of money, because I remember when I first started to work for the city, my paycheck take home was my mortgage. So just think about that for a second.
I
1997,
know.
I think I bought my first house. My take home pay was my mortgage payment. So I had to work 2 jobs or overtime like a crazy person. So knowing that I took a city job, right? Probably like you did, because you knew that for your future, you would have the promise of healthcare and a pension.
I was
You
making
care
I made $5,400 when I started teaching,
a
and
year.
a year, $5,400, and I knew that was not going to carry me, but I did plan ahead. I am basically Gregory's mouthpiece.
More question. I was just curious, as a UFT retiree,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about the fact that it is your, well, or the union's elected president who is one of two, or basically, the leaders of the municipal unions in this fight
Al
to
Shanker has to be rolling over. It's a disgrace. It's an out and out disgrace.
What would you say to your union leadership today? Is we know that there's many unions that don't support this, but they're kind of being forced into it because of the structure of the municipal labor committee. What would you say to your union today for putting you and your family in this situation?
If something happens to my son, you are directly responsible. You are liable. You have put us in jeopardy. You have put seniors in a position where they die where they lack access, don't you have a conscience?
What would you say to
What
Michael
do you
Mulgrew,
want?
who
What
keeps
do you
saying
want
that?
for your family? What do you
What
want for
would
your
you?
family?
Yeah. What would you say to Michael Mulgrew, who keeps using the excuse that this is a custom plan made especially for you and the benefits are better than Medicare?
You know what I would say. You're full of it. You're full of it.
Well, and your story is very telling in that everything that they say, when they first rolled this out, they said you could keep all your doctors. Was that true?
No, that was not true. Of
You
course
could
not.
keep all your hospitals. Was that
No,
true?
not true. There was nothing transparent about this deal. Nothing. And that's the one thing we do need going forward. We do need transparency. We do need accountability. It's totally gone. It's gone.
I agree with you.
I never in my wildest dreams ever thought we would be in this position. Never. Never.
And that the union would be behind it.
Mm-hmm. And that the union would be responsible for this.
And we were all very strong unionists. We all believed in our union, even up until this happened.
You know, Marianne, when I went out, so I was tier 1, and Lisa was born in 73. I went back. I did a lot of subbing between 73 and 75. When Greg was born, all bets were off. And I couldn't. And I was out on childcare. I was up in District 4. And basically, the childcare did get extended for quite some time because of Greg's disabilities. And in 1992, when I went back, I was going back full time. And, you know, I really never thought that there would be any kind of issue like this going forward. Never. The point is, they just sold us down the river. This is a whole different scenario. And I feel sorry for the people who are just coming into the system. I do. I don't know why anyone would want to work in the city and not be able to trust that what they're saying is true. What they say on Monday is going to hold on Tuesday. Because they have lost my trust. I have no faith.
Both the city and the union.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Truly, again, I want to thank you again for being so forthcoming, and your
you don't have to thank me. This is,
I mean, crystallizing what this is all about. I mean, it's just so sad.
I'm gonna leave you. Have a great day. Thank you both.
Thanks very much.
It was great seeing you, Judy.
Same here. Take care.